everybody, and yes, it is everybody's favorite day of the week. Day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. Frank, how you doing, man?
It is my favorite day of the week.
Man,
I'm doing all right.
Wow. Okay, we'll dive into that here in a few minutes, but a lot to talk about today. We're gonna jump into a number of things, and can't wait to see what you have in store for myself and the fans today. But I want to kick things off real quick, dude. I have to go to the source. This was a bad weekend for you, dude. What the heck happened to the Browns?
Holy moly, man! We got hey, thanks for adding insult to injury.
Yeah,
it's
but
just
that was a huge game.
It was a monster game, but you have to realize that game we had our 2 first-string tackles out. We were missing like 80% of our first string. Chubb was gone. Hunt was hurt. And now wait till tonight. Tonight's game's going to be crazy.
But you're playing Houston, though.
But look, horrible. But we have 0 first stringers in the game.
I know. It's a mash unit,
just a handful on defense. And it's so bizarre because, as a Browns fan suffering of 20 years of obscurity and loss, we finally have a team that is positioned, starting with last year's team, that is positioned to really be a football playing game. And now all of a sudden everybody's hurt. And it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. It seems like the Browns fans always have to hurry up and wait. And and I'm getting kind of sick of it. But I'm not going to whine and cry about this, but I do want to talk about this.
Okay.
Some of the officiating is absolute BS. There's calls that have hurt us in 2 games that were blatantly wrong calls or should be no calls at all. And it changes the outcome of the game. I mean, you guys all know, I mean, if you're in a tournament and you lose a 5-pounder, you probably just hurt yourself. You know what I mean? And to me, that's what a bad call is. A bad call is losing an important fish.
Yeah. I thought you guys played Houston tonight. I guess you played Denver. Is that right?
Yeah, the Broncos.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's my bad. They were talking about Cleveland versus Houston. It must have been something else on the morning show that I listen to every morning. So
yeah, I'm really
sorry, man.
No, that's okay, dude. It's just, you know what? I'm just going to say this. This is just par for the course for my week.
All right, we'll get into that here in a few minutes.
Don't you have an announcement to make?
Yeah, well, it's not an announcement. I just want to remind everybody out there. There's a pretty cool deal that's going on that Johnny Morris has going on called the and it has to do with kids. It's called I got to make sure I get it right. The Johnny Morris Happy Fishing Contest. And it's a pretty cool deal for kids 17 and under. And what you have to do, you have to make a video, create a video 2 minutes or less, and then you submit the videos and complete the entry form online on the website. And then a panel of professional anglers will judge the videos, and then the winners will be announced in November. The reason I say this is because the deadline is this Sunday. I think Sunday at midnight. But it's a pretty cool deal. Yeah. The winners are going to get a new boat, a new bass tracker with a motor trailer. They're going to get a free trip to the U.S. Open, Bass Pro Shops U.S. Open. They're going to get a free entry into a kids fishing tournament that's going to take place during that week. They get fishing rods and reels and a bunch of Bass Pro Shop stuff. So if you are a kid out there, or if anybody listening has kids, it's a really, really cool deal. Just you can go on the Bass Pro Shops website and get all the info. But the key point is the deadline is this Sunday. So if you haven't done one, you need to get busy and put one together.
Yeah, you're running out of time.
Yeah, speaking of video.
Okay, I'm just going to go. I'm not complaining, people. I'm not complaining. I'm
Just
just going to
stating
go.
facts.
Yes, these are facts, and I'm just going to go through this small last couple weeks, 3 weeks of mine.
Okay.
So I was having a little bit of outboard issues. So I went in and I had my injectors changed, my coils changed, plug wires, plugs, my air pump, all brand new stuff. Got the boat running, got everything. Because, if you're going to, my motor's an '09. So if you're going to change one thing, you might as well replace all of them because they're all the same age. So if you're experiencing issues, do the whole thing because then everything is brand new. Okay, so that being said, and then I put the my hydraulic jack plate on the boat because I had a static plate and I didn't want it. I wanted a hydraulic. I always use a hydraulic plate, so I got that. So I just spent essentially a ton of money getting everything up to snuff. Because I make all these fishing videos, most of the time I'm fishing anymore is for video. I do very, very little fun fishing because everything I do is based towards work. And of course, I'm not tournament fishing. So, I have to keep everything good because I make a living out of that boat, just like I did when I tournament fish. But when you tournament fish, the cool thing about that is if something goes wrong, you pull up to the trailers at the tournament and they fix it on the spot. You know what I mean? And you have the actual Mercury technicians or the boat brand technicians or your locator brand technicians right there. So you're getting help from the best of the best of the best. Okay, so that being said, so that I got through all those issues and everything is good. And Joe, my other cameraman, because my two cameramen, Frankie is my one, my son Frankie is my one cameraman, and my buddy Joe Sharap is my other cameraman. And Joe has the Hunt Fish Shoot channel, so he's off right now, deer hunting. He'll be back tomorrow. He's deer hunting right now, doing videos for his channel, deer hunting. Anyway, so Frankie and I went to film yesterday. And you guys know from the frog show, the Yum Tiptoed show, that I was on them really, really good.
Yep.
Well, we had a massive, massive cold front, probably the biggest one of the year, 3 days in a row prior to the day prior to Tuesday. So I knew things were going to change, but I still knew I can get a good tiptoed show. So we go out first thing in the morning. I run to the first spot, don't get a blow up. I'm like, no big deal. No, I got a ton of places, no big deal. Run to the next one, get about 2 or 3 blow ups. I catch one. Cool. Go to the next spot, get a couple more blow ups, and they're blowing up behind the bait. They're blatantly just missing the bait. So I know the pattern is changing somewhat. So I slow my retrieve down. I make it more erratic. I get another hook up. Perfect. I have one short strike me right at the side of the boat, probably a 5-pounder. Boosh! And of course, I had no line out, and I missed them. And it was no big deal. So we're going down the lake. I said, come on, I got one more. Let's run down to this one other place. We'll finish the show here and we'll be good. So I run down the lake. I get on the stuff. I start fishing. Another dude pulls up. He's way in front of me, maybe 100 yards or so. So we're fishing towards each other. No big deal. I just need one more fish and I'm going to get it. And, he starts up and he decides he's going to leave. So he starts up and he leaves kind of close to me, but not like running me over, but kind of close. Okay. Don't think nothing of it. I jump down in the bottom of the boat to grab something. Frankie, one of the GoPros tipped sideways, so Frankie's re-straightening out the GoPro. He's got his back to the tripod. I turn around, walk back to the front of the boat to turn the nose gradually into the wave, so the boat just does one of those. Well, the way the wind was blowing, it put me at a funny angle, and the waves from the guy that took off, his waves hit the side of my boat, and it did something really weird. It just rocked it like real fast, like that way. The tripod started rocking. Well, the heavy camera on top of the tripod started to go. I yelled at Frankie, dude, the camera. He turns around, he grabs the tripod, the camera breaks off the mount bracket on top of the tripod and goes right into the lake.
Oh no!
Yeah, dude. Not only did we lose the camera, Frankie lost his cell phone because he watches all the GoPros on his cell phone. So that's how he knew it was crooked. You know what I mean? Because he saw it. So we lose the camera, we lose the battery, we lose earphones, we lose the wireless mic, a cell phone, dude. It happened. It happened like in mega slow motion, but it happened in like a half a second. You know what I mean?
No.
Like when it was all going down, it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And and I'm laughing about it. Because there's nothing you could. We have filmed on Lake Erie in the nastiest crap. And of course, you can't air those films because everybody will get seasick. You know what I mean? Because the camera, that tripod is so stable on the back of that boat that this was just the most freakish boat movement ever. Did you guys ever see that picture of the oscillating bridge?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what happened. It was just this freak movement, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? But it happened super fast. Anyhow, so we lost the camera. So on top of all the money I just spent on the boat, now I'm buying another camera.
Oh no!
Yeah, and battery.
Did you try to find it?
Yeah, we tried to find it, but the wind was blowing, the boat moved. I got back on the track line, and we got the extended pole and started poking around, but it was 8 feet deep where the camera went over. And so you could barely get to the bottom and poke around. But even if we found it, we didn't find it. But even if we found it, it was no good. Yeah. I mean, once those things get wet, it's over. I mean, there's no chance. Not that wet, not that wet.
Yeah.
So it was a bummer yesterday, man. I mean, it was both Frankie and I sat down in the bottom of the boat and just stared at each other going, because we never even came in 4 years. We've never even come close to losing a camera, not even close to it. You know what I mean? And like I said, it was just the most freakish thing I've ever seen. It just, when it started, we couldn't get it to stop. And I was by the time I walked up to the front deck and had turned around, I saw it doing this. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So I just, it was one of those days, man. I said, well, Frankie's like, well, what are we going to do now? I said, we're going to put all this crap away and go fish. There's nothing. What else are you going to do? I mean, we could cry all day, but it's not bringing the camera back. So let's go catch a few. So we went out and caught a few,
The positive spin, dude, you have some really unique, specific structure in about 8 foot of water right off a grass line.
Yeah.
That's going to attract fish.
Yeah, and an almost complete show. Now the problem is, if the bass watch that video, they won't eat a toad anymore.
Dude, that sucks. That's horrible.
Yeah, I'm really bummed out. I'm laughing about it because what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? What are you gonna do? I mean, that happens, and then I'm gonna ask you guys for help later. I need help from the audience.
Oh, okay.
So we might have to throw up the Sunline hotline
to have people call in.
Yeah, because I have a problem, and I'm not 100. I'm very reliant on my electronics, and I have something that has never happened to me before, and I don't know if I'm just don't know how to shut it off. I'll explain it later. We're not going to
Okay.
get into that now.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I know
Yeah.
a lot of people out there are feeling for you. I am. I know the fans are. Jeez, that's a brutal day on the water. Losing
Yeah,
the camera.
it was an expensive 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. That's never happened to me. All the time that I've spent on the water, I've never lost a camera.
Yeah, same with us. And we've been in
Yeah.
some brutal stuff. And like I said, it was so freakish. Just the boat, just the way the wind had turned that boat, and the wave wasn't violent. The boat wave that hit us wasn't even violent, but they were so close together, it just started rocking the boat real fast, like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enough oscillation to get the tripod bouncing from leg to leg. And I saw half of it unfold. When I turned around, I saw what it was doing. I yelled to Frankie, and he had his back turned. So when he looked up, the camera was coming over, and he just reached up like that to grab it. And I'm like, yeah, he got it. You know what I mean? He got it. And then it just, the camera itself just popped right off the mount bracket and just launched into the lake.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God.
was it a good show?
Yeah, it would have been a great show because the bite got like I said, the pattern was changing. So the bite got funky on me, and I knew that it was not 100% the same. So I kind of had to slow things down. I had to really let them get a beat on this thing, because before, I'm trucking it in and they're getting it and everything. Well, now they're behind it. Every time they hit it, they were behind it. So I would slow it down and shake it, kill it, let it go under a little bit, bring it back up on top, almost like a swim jig type thing, which probably would have been, the deal to throw yesterday. But but it was working out, and it was just taking a little bit longer because I was going through a lot of missed bites. But it would have been a good show because it would have shown what I was going to articulate in the show was how to recognize that change in the pattern based on how the fish is biting that bait or trying to bite that bait. And so it was really a perfect opportunity because you don't get that chance to show that on a video that often. And so we had two cameras. We actually had two cameras rolling. We had one that Frankie manually was working. We set the tripod up for me. And then we had one that Frankie was manually working, super tight zoom on the tip-toed. So when the blow-ups would come, you would see the toad, and then you would see the fish literally 8 inches behind it coming up out of the water and completely missing it. So it was going to be it was just, you couldn't have, as a show goes, you couldn't have done that on purpose, showing the change in the pattern. You know what I mean? And so it was going to be a really good twist to that show. And I'm so disappointed that it's in the bottom of the lake.
Man.
Yeah.
Feel for you, dude.
It was just it was such a good learning. It was such a good learning video. And I'm so upset that we didn't get it. Well, we got it. Nobody's going to see it except for the bass at the bottom of the lake.
Treasure chest now at the bottom of the lake, bottom of Lake Erie.
Well, this was in an inland lake.
Oh, okay. It wasn't Erie.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't Erie.
Bummer, dude. Well, let's turn the page and go to something positive. We talked Cleveland Browns, which is depressing. We talked losing a camera, which is depressing. Let's kind of break it up and bring up the spirit here, Frank.
Okay, so you know what? It's funny because as normal, and I shouldn't even say this because this is so lack of preparation on my part. It's not as normal, but every now and then, I literally have no idea what I'm doing until the morning of the show. The Tiptoed show was literally, and Mark could attest to this because normally we get on a little bit earlier and make sure everything's working. I literally didn't get on that show until about 2 minutes before airtime, because of my fishing day with the tip toad, I wanted to do that. So I ran downstairs and I rigged a bunch of stuff, and I was doing all this stuff before the show. So the same thing happened this morning, because yesterday I was completely just out of sorts yesterday with everything that happened, filming and the problem that I'm going to talk to you guys about in a minute that I need help on. I was just not focused on today's show. And then I got a bing on my email. A color came up on the paint shop for Bandit 100, Bandit 200 called Khaki. It's a bring back color. Okay. That struck me because I had gotten a bunch of DMs from guys that wanted this color brought back. Well, I honestly didn't initiate the bring back of this color. Bandit had gotten a lot of requests for this color to come back, and so they brought it back in the paint shop. The color's called Khaki, and it's in the 100 and 200. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, you know what? I have a ton of that color. So I ran out, got in the boat, got my Bandits out, and pulled up some of them, and I go, yeah, this is the color. So then I came back in, pulled up the paint shop, looked at it. I go, oh, that's the color. Cool, sweet, because I only have a few left of each of those. So then I got to thinking about Bandit. You guys, I'm all over the board, but just bear with me because we're going somewhere.
All right.
The first time that I was introduced to a Bandit was the Bandit 200, and it was decades ago. Okay. I was on Pickwick, and a good friend of mine was fishing the opens back then. And he said, hey, did you ever throw this bait? And I go, no, man, what is it? He showed it to me. He was throwing a Bandit 200. And I said, that's a pretty cool bait. And so he gave me a couple of them. And I got the two colors that I first got was a red one, and then, of course, root beer. Okay. Root beer with the orange belly and root beer with the pink belly. So I'm on Pickwick and I'm fishing, and the fish are doing something real funky, and I'm catching them, but I'm not catching them. You know what I mean? So I slid up on this gravel bar, and I'm like, some fish were schooling, some fish weren't. And I picked up an inline spinner, fired it out there, boom, 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 started catching them on an inline. Because for those that don't know, if you got schooling fish, sometimes that inline spinner, even though it's old school, is a money bait. So I had made my own inlines with single hooks, Cahill style single hooks. So my hookups were like off the chart. Anyhow, I wasn't catching big ones. I had grabbed that root beer Bandit 200 and started running those gravel bars with that thing, and it was a game changer. So now this is a long, long time ago. So that became like, you know, I was obsessed with that 200 because I catch a lot of fish on that, you know, that 2 to 8 foot range. It's just a psycho bait. So anyhow, over the course of time, for whatever the reasons, I stopped throwing it as much. Okay. I only started resurrecting it a couple of years ago when I started to have to do a lot of crankbait videos. And it's still a fish catcher today, still hammer the fish on it. And so I said, why is nobody throwing this like they used to throw this lure before? Because, man, we used to, in the opens and on tour, everybody threw this thing. So I started doing a little digging. Well, Bandit, for all those in the bass world, especially below the Mason-Dixon line, Bandit had came out with the Bandit Walleye Deep and the Bandit Walleye Shallow. And these things on the Great Lakes and in the walleye fisheries are absolute. It's money, dude. It's like an annuity. It just keeps performing. So consequently, what happened was Bandit started focusing a lot of energy in the walleye community and kind of stopped marketing hard to the bass community. And so we saw a little dip in the Bandit 100, 200, and 300 series, which, by the way, the Bandit 300 series, not only is it good in the bass community, but the crappie trollers are just maul the crappies on this bait. Okay.
Okay.
For whatever the reason, they just maul them on it. And so here's the deal. The Bandit 100, which is this little square bill, okay. The Bandit 200, and I should have brought up some 300s, but I didn't. Okay, Bandit 200, this dude, Bandit 100, square billy type bait, a square bill style bait. Oh, by the way, this is the khaki color. Let me do a better job here. It's got an orange belly. You probably can't see it. It's got bone shoulders, white underbelly, and an olive gray back. Beautiful color.
What is it? Does that orange go all the way across on the bottom?
Yeah, the orange goes from chin to tail. It's just, this is an old one, so it's kind of faded out on me.
Looks good, though.
Yeah, it's a great bait. So anyway, so the cool thing about the Bandit is all the body styles, the 100, 200, 300, are the same size body from head to tail, same size body. The 200 will dive like 4 to 8, the 100 will dive 2 to 5, and the 300 dives a little bit deeper than that, probably around 10. So you got the same body profile in 3 different depth ranges. This is the original root beer color too, by the way. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, so anyhow, so that being said, I thought, you know what, let me talk about this, because I was introduced to this bait in Tennessee. And that Tennessee area, that region of, Kentucky and Tennessee and that region right there, even part of North Carolina, that's really where the Bandit series became really famous. And then of course, Mississippi. But so it was really cool. And I just thought, you know what? This bait doesn't get a lot of attention. Like, I'm a Norman guy. Everybody knows it. I love Normans. I throw the crud out of Normans. I throw bombers. I throw bandits. But Bandit has kind of it's kind of got out of the limelight. You know what I mean? And I just thought, you know what? This is something really cool to talk about, because this bait's still a fish catcher. And I don't know if it just doesn't get the attention because of how the tournament trails today are going. A lot of it's not lending itself to that. I mean, you see all the tournaments, half of them are, drop shotting and Ned rigs and stuff like that. We're not seeing a lot of, true cranking and winding, grinding it out type tournaments anymore. Right. So I really wanted to bring that up. I mean, I think it's important. The khaki color, like I said, I got responses to bring this color back. But Bandit got monstrous responses for this color, so they brought it back. It's on the paint shop now, the khaki color in the 100 and the 200. So if you guys are interested, give it a check out. In the Bandit series, I like that color. Here, I'm going to show you my 3 favorite colors. Well, I said 3, but I mean 4. I'm going to show them to you. Okay, this is hot chocolate. All right. Ooh. Hot chocolate. That's a sweet color. Yeah. So it's very shady in the water. It's almost, it's a weird color. They call it hot chocolate because it has a little bit of brownish in it, but it's mostly like a Tennessee shad type color. And then their original Tennessee shad color, which I really like.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, root beer. Mm-hmm. Now, root beer, I like both orange and pink bellied in root beer. And then, of course, khaki. And khaki's real subtle. This is bone on the sides. It's white by the underbelly, and then you have the orange. And it's a pale orange. It's a beautiful orange, actually. But yeah, so so I just thought I'd talk about it. for nothing more than it's a part of my history. It's, I was introduced to that crankbait by a friend of mine who fished on tour with me. And yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Let me ask you this, Frank. Obviously, the country right now going through the transition, a lot of fish grouped up, a lot of schooling fish.
Yeah.
But still, it's basically all about the bait fish, where the bait fish are going.
Correct.
And the migration, the cooling water, but it's primarily really about the bait fish. How does the 100 and the 200, maybe not a lot of the 300, but how would that fit into what people are going through right now across the nation?
That's a great question, Mark. Actually, I'm really happy you brought that up.
I'm always thinking, man.
You're thinking. On the drawdown lakes in the fall, it's a money bait because the lakes are coming down. So now what you're really targeting now is rock. Could be pea gravel, could be where baseball size rock meets basketball size rock. So now you're really focusing on where this bait excels is in the hard bottom. It's just fantastic for that. Another thing that the Bandit 200, 300, even the 100 excels on is riprap. Because you could parallel shallow riprap with the 100. You could get about a 60 degree, so you're not perpendicular to the riprap. You're at a really hard angle to the riprap and throw the 200. Then you could throw the 300 where the riprap actually meets the bottom of the lake, where the boulders are into the dirt on the bottom of the lake. Yeah. So it's really a good series to throw on riprap. And you guys know every lake on the planet has riprap. Maybe with the exception of some Florida natural lakes, but they even use riprap to stop erosion. Riprap doesn't have to be on a bridge. Riprap can be where they pile riprap up to stop erosion. Diversionary canals, most of the canals have riprap at least on one side of them. So it's really a good bait for that, but it really excels. I like fishing it in the fall. And I like fishing it in the pre-spawn when the fish are on secondary points, especially the 200 on those shallow bars and stuff on secondary points. It's a phenomenal bait. It just really is.
Yeah. Now, can you talk a little bit about the hooks? There's some questions out there about the hooks. What's the preference? Do you stick with what's on there? Can you, increase the size of the hooks? What's the scoop?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally speaking, what's on here now is they went to the EWG style, and the hooks that are on them now are actually pretty good. What I do, though, and I'll be honest with you, if the fish are not aggressive, I'm going to round bends on them. If the fish are aggressive, I leave these on, because if they take this bait, they don't usually shake it. But if they're slapping at it, I want the round bends, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of because if they slap at the bait with round bends, you're hooking them in the side of the face. Okay. If they slap at the bait with EWGs, a lot of times you're not going to hook those fish. So that's what I do. That's the only time I change. That's the only time I change out. Is for that particular reason. Based totally and solely on fish's aggression. Because I prefer round bends for most of my deep cranking scenarios, but shallow cranking is where I'll go from the EWG style to the round bend based on how they're hitting the bait.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Frank, and this really applies to any crankbait, be it a bomber, or a Norman, or a Bandit. Yeah. What is your recommendation for the people out there that like to tinker? And I'm not talking about colors. And I'm going to give you a quick example. I remember during a Central Pro-Am many, many years ago, the dude had a bunch of crankbaits because, let's face it, it was in the Ozarks and the whole wiggle ward thing. Everybody knows about the wiggle ward thing. What he was doing, though, is he had something in that flat tackle box that I had never seen before. You know what it was? It was a Dremel tool.
Yeah.
And he would actually mess and modify the bill with that Dremel tool to get it exactly where he wanted for it to run. And the action, he would actually take like, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but he'd take like a 300 or a 200, a little bit, longer bill on the crankbait, and then he would take that Dremel tool and he would kind of fine tune it down to what he wanted. Is this something that you recommend, or is this something that, for lack of a better term, is just a waste of time?
I won't say it's a waste of time. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't listen. These baits are designed to run with the bill that they have in them.
Yeah.
There was a thing that some of the guys were doing with fat-free shads. They were taking the fat-free shad number 7 and tracing out a DD22 bill on that bill, and then grinding them down to the DD22 style of that rounded bill.
Yeah.
On the fat freeze. It was really gimmicky because I did it also, because I'm like, I got to see what this is about. So I did it myself, and it was really gimmicky because what it did was it changed the action on my Bomber Fat Free 7, but didn't give it the action of a DD22.
Gotcha.
It was close, but it didn't give it that. The DD22 is just, it's sexy. It does its thing.
Yeah.
By doing that to another crankbait, it wasn't quite there. And so I said, I'm not doing this because I'm ruining my Fat Free 7. Because here, look, they dive differently. They run differently. They have a different pitch and roll. I call it pitch and roll. A lot of guys call it vibration. But a crankbait, not only does it go left and right, but it rolls when it does it. That's the pitch and roll. Okay. Yeah. So as it's moving, it's doing all this stuff. So by changing and altering the bill, you're altering probably the trigger characteristic of that crankbait. Now, save the phone calls, guys, because I know that you can modify. I know you can modify the bills and you can still catch fish on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the be-all to end-all? Is it the magical cure? No, it's not the magical cure, because you have to look at all your crankbaits and how they run and how they behave. You have to notice the differences in those crankbaits, okay? And then you apply those differences to your fishing situations. You don't need to modify the bill. The only thing I can tell you is this. There are times when I'll put a little lead tape under the chin on some crankbaits because I want to slow the rise up. I don't want them as buoyant.
Right.
So I'll slow the rise. Two things occur. I can get them to run a little bit deeper, okay? And I can cast them a little bit farther with the added weight. But I'm not changing the action of the bait. And if you put the lead tape in the wrong place, the bait won't run. So you got to understand, when you're talking crankbaits, there's a million variables. The pivot point on a crankbait truly is the first hook eye. That's usually where the bait's pivoting. Okay, on that first hook eye. Like if this is right here, I'll just show you. What the heck am I doing? Like an idiot.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay. It's there. It's pivoting on this hook right here. This center hook is where it's pivoting. So if you add any lead to it, you add the lead up in here in front of the pivot point. So you're not changing it. If you add lead behind the bait, you're changing it because now it's tail heavy. So it's going to change things. You always want to keep it in the neutral place where it's not going to hamper how the bait's running. That's if you need to modify a bait. Okay.
Okay.
So that's really it. Like with my crankbait fishing, I don't do massive amounts of modification on the bait itself. Now I'll paint the crap out of them, but I don't do a lot of super modifications. I do more modifications on jerk baits than I do crankbaits, even though a jerk bait is considered a crankbait.
okay, from a crankbait standpoint, lesson learned is that you have so many options that it could be deemed unnecessary
Right.
to try and
100%.
tweak all that stuff because you have all the options that have been produced for the
Right.
most part.
100%. Exactly right. I mean, here, look, back in the day, when Pose first came out, Fritz made Pose famous. Everybody knows it in the bass fishing world. He made that lure famous. The original Pose was the Pose to throw. The problem with the original Pose is the line pull was marginal at best, because if you overtune the bait, you could never retune it. You follow me?
Yeah.
There was something the way that line pull was that if you tweaked it too much, it would never run again. So they fixed that problem over the course of time, but the bait lost its popularity in the meantime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because whatever the trigger was there, they changed it a little bit. So you have to be real careful when you're tinkering with crankbaits, because you don't want to change you don't want to change the thing that makes it the thing. You know what I mean? So you have to really watch what you're doing with crankbaits.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, and as much as you throw a crankbait, I'm shocked I haven't asked you this. What are your thoughts and feelings about a red hook? A lot of people like using a red hook. What are your thoughts?
I don't give a crap. I don't even use red hooks.
Okay.
I don't use red hooks. I'll tell you the truth. I don't like the metal that it's made on. I prefer the original Aberdeens or black nickel. And if I throw black nickel, it's not a 3X or a 2X.
Mm-hmm.
It's standard size. With crankbait fishing, you're really not jamming the fish when you hook him. He's pulling on you and you're pulling back, and you want a nice thin wire to penetrate the fish's mouth. That's how you hold the fish on that bait. I found that the 2Xs and the 3Xs are a little meaty, and you really got to hit them to get a hook in them. You really got to pull them. I want the fish to be hooked by accident, so I use a thinner wire hook, and I just play my fish. I don't just skate them across the top with a crankbait. You know what I mean? I play them out. I've been very fortunate. I have a very high land ratio with crankbaits. I don't want to jinx myself after the week I had, but but I have a very high landing percentage with crankbaits. So I don't really monkey with too much. And then the other thing is I'm not an advocate of short shanked hooks. I like the regular shank. I want the hook a little bit farther off the bait.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
All right. Several people on the comments want to know your thoughts, and you kind of touched on it a little bit about weighting the crankbait to where it sinks instead of trying to figure out, okay, it's not going to rise because of the buoyancy.
Right.
What are your thoughts on making a crankbait sink?
I don't do that. I don't want them to sink. Even on Lake Douglas a long time ago, when the guys were, strolling, letting all their line out, and then trolling motoring out, and then reeling them in. I weighted them. I weighted my crankbaits with lead, a lot of lead, and it wasn't to make them sink. It was to make it so they would dive deeper, and I can cast them a mile, and then I can crank the fish instead of strolling over them, because I didn't buy into that technique that they were doing back then. They said trolling was illegal in a tournament, and in my opinion, that was totally trolling.
Right.
Because you had guys on their trolling motor dragging the thing. You know what I mean? And it's so I made it so I could cast. Plus, I'm way more precise on a cast. I know where my target is based on my waypoint that I laid out, and I know where I have to cast to hit that target in the perfect place. If I stroll it, I'm not sure where I'm going unless I'm tight lining it over it, and that's trolling. So
No, I get it. Several questions too about the importance or lack of importance, or it really doesn't matter when crankbaits suspend. What are your thoughts on that? Is that part of your arsenal that you need when you have a situation where you want that crankbait to suspend? What are your thoughts?
yeah, what a suspending crankbait actually does is it gives you the ability to get the bait a little bit deeper than it normally runs. And a true suspending crankbait doesn't suspend all the time because in certain water temperatures it will start to sink. So you have to be very cognizant of that. Mm-hmm. The other problem with a true suspending crankbait, it loses its buoyancy. So if it's not a good crawler where it walks around timber, if you snag it, you lose it because you're not going to get it to float up. It's never going to float back up. Also, with a deep diving crankbait, the deeper it goes, the less it suspends based on water pressure.
Right.
So there's a point of no return on those baits. Now, Bomber used to make a suspending fat-free shad that I loved, but it was a super slow riser. It wasn't a true suspender. It was a super slow rising crankbait. And I mean super slow. Yeah. And I love that bait. But guys didn't tune in on it. I mean, that's the reality. That's why it's not made today. Guys never tuned in on that bait. Yeah. The guys that were in the know, they caught fish on it. Lots of fish on it. I did. I still have original suspenders. But it just never caught on in the fishing game because people weren't educated on that particular style of crankbait. Okay, it's only look. We could talk about the Bandit 100 and the Bandit 200. If you don't fish it, you're not educated on it because you have to fish it to get educated on it. You have to know what this bait's capable of before you can say, yes, this is a situation where this 200 is going to excel, or the Norman middle line is going to excel. You know what I mean? You have to fish them because you have to see, is it a tight vibration? Is it a tight pitch and roll? Is it wide? Is it obnoxious? You have to know about these crankbaits in order to put them in situations where they're applicable. And so with the deep diving suspending crankbaits, I don't think the public was well educated enough on that particular bait because I liked them. I mean, I caught a lot of fish on the Bomber fat-free suspenders, a lot of fish on it. And, but I threw it in certain situations. And when I knew the situation was applicable for those things, I always caught fish on them. You know, if I'm fishing a lot of heavy timbered areas, I won't throw the suspender. Yes, it'll walk around a lot of timber, but you're always going to snag in something. You know what I mean? So we're in the heavier timber crankbait scenario, you're going to be able to walk a buoyant bait through it because a lot of times, like a Norman DD22 comes through wood better than any big build crankbait I've ever thrown. And by all practical purposes, it's got a rounded bill. And when you look at the bill, you should say, hey, that bait will never come through wood. But it comes through wood better than any crankbait I own is the DD22. And so when I hit the wood, then I pull. I never stop it and I never try to yank it through. I just reel it down there and I pull. I keep it moving nice and slow, and it'll literally walk around everything down there. So it's all by knowing the bill style and how that bait runs to what you can put it through to maximize your fishing situation with that particular lure. Yeah. It's all education. And look, guys, the only way you get educated on a bait is to buy it and throw it.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think that people who actually go out, if they have one or their friend has one, a swim pool, and make casts in swimming pools to where you can actually see
Oh
the
yeah,
action. Takahiro was famous for this because he actually had a pool built in his backyard specifically to do this. But to be able to see the action of what you're trying to do, and I get it, there's a bunch of other variables and stuff like that, but that's got a pretty good way to educate yourself and to really identify what each of these unique crankbaits are going to do. Is it not?
absolutely, 100%. I do it all the time. My in-laws had a pool. I'd go there and tune crankbaits and see what I can do. Like I tune crankbaits. You want a deep diving crankbait super tuned, because then it's going to dive to the maximum depth. Some of my shallow crankbaits, I untune them. I make them run to the right or run to the left, not
Right.
crazy to the right, crazy to the left. Just I want them swimming to the left because I'll dock fish with those.
Right.
So when I approach one side of the dock, I crank it, it goes underneath the dock. When I go to the other side, I pick the other one up, throw it out, it goes underneath the dock. And so you have to experiment with that, because you don't want it over tuned, because then it'll have a tendency to start curling up on you and come to the surface. Eventually it'll start to roll on you. You don't want that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great idea, because then you can physically see, well, look, this crankbait's real tight. Look, this one's real wide. You know what I mean? So you should do that anyway. The big mistake that I see, most of the mistakes that I see people make, is they go to tune a crankbait, they put 3 feet of line out, pull it, and then it runs one way or runs the other, and then they tune it up and they pull it again and they pull it again, and then they make a long cast and it's running way out, and they're like, I don't understand, because the angle of their pull was not the true angle of the running depth of the way that crankbait runs. So by tuning it with 3 feet of line out, unless it's a bait that only dives 2 feet, you're not going to tune it. You have to cast it out 10 feet and reel it straight into the reel, straight up the rod. So I point my rod directly at the crankbait. I cast it out about 10 or 12 feet and I reel it in, and then I could watch my line on my rod tip and see which way my rod tip's going. Then I tune it. That's the only way to really truly tune a deep diving crankbait.
All right.
You
Cool.
can't pull them by the side of the boat, because you're pulling up and the crankbait's trying to dig on you. And that's not your angle of your cast. When you make a cast and reel it in, it's flatter. So you want to make a cast out there and reel it in. Point the rod tip straight at the bait, reel it in, and watch the line at your rod tip, and you'll see your line starting to move.
Yeah, very nice. Let's see here. Oh, many people want to know, with the Bandit still using a speed clip.
Oh yeah, dude, come on. You guys know me. You guys know me. I've been married to the speed clip since the day they made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that speed clip is just money.
All right, man, I'm trying to get to a lot of these questions, a ton of questions, so please bear with me.
I kind of knew we were going to open up a question gig here.
Yeah. We're going to go let's go another 5 minutes, and then I want to get to your
problem
situation.
Yeah, because I need help, guys. What I need is the bass tank. That's what I need.
Yeah. Well, you might give John a call and see if he can help you out if we can't get an answer from the fans. All right.
Or I have to drive down there and just have him redo my whole dang boat.
There you go. He'll take care of you. Now, several people are wanting to know, what about silent crankbaits?
Yeah. Now here, look, silent crankbaits have a place. Am I a fan of them? I am not a huge fan of silent crankbaits, but there is a place for them. Highly pressured waters excels. Gin clear water, they excel. Like here, the Booyah XCS is a silent square bill. For the most part, I won't throw a silent square bill, but that bait there, if I'm fishing behind guys, I'm throwing it, because it's so natural in the water. It's the last show we talked about, Matt made a statement about something being so natural, fish can't help themselves but to eat it. Okay. Right. That's where that XCS falls into place. When a guy's going around banging cover with some loud knocking, shallow running crankbait, and the bass hear it nonstop for 4 days in a row, all of a sudden something a little quiet and a little flashy comes by, that's shaddy. That's minnowy.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to eat it. So there is definitely a place for silent crankbaits.
All right, there was a question about people out there that like to paint stuff. They like to tinker around a little bit. Is it better to remove the paint that's on the lure before you repaint it, or is it okay just to paint over it?
Yes, here. If you're going to paint a transparent or semi-transparent bait, obviously you have to get rid of the old paint. Painting over old paint, you're also painting over the clear coat. So what I recommend you do is get a scuff pad and scuff the whole bait before you start painting on it. You want something the paint can adhere to. If you don't scuff a bait first that's already pre-clear coated, you run the risk of chipping yours because the paint really doesn't have anything to adhere to.
Yeah.
You know, you would need an adhesion promoter and have to coat it in adhesion promoter. But if you scuff the bait up, you can avoid that process with a pre-painted bait.
All right, there you have it. I'm going to throw this one up here because we actually discussed this in length in a previous show, but just kind of give the smaller version of it very quickly, Frank. When you tune a crankbait, do you tune the hook eye or the swivel?
No, you have to tune the hook. You have to tune the pull point. Where you're on the here.
Ha! Let me blow it up. Hang on.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, there you go.
You're tuning that right there. And basically, you're not twisting that. You do not twist that. Okay, so you don't know how hard this is backwards.
It's backwards.
So if the crankbait's running this way, you bend. Come on. If the crankbait runs to the left, you bend the line pull a little bit to the right, basically the opposite way the bait's going.
There you go.
If you overdo it, it'll run way the other way. It doesn't take a lot. Like the bandits and Normans are the easiest crankbaits on the planet to tune. It doesn't take hardly anything to tune them. Okay? So you have to realize that. Just a little with the pliers is good enough. If you feel that thing bend, you way overdid it.
Yeah.
Like I can tune Normans with my teeth, but I won't.
No, we don't want to get into that.
I'm not doing that. I'm making the disclaimer. Don't do it. I got broken teeth all over the place because I tried to do it with other crankbaits that are not as sensitive, and I wound up chipping my teeth. So don't do that.
This is pretty funny. Here, let me throw this.
I can only imagine.
Doug says, I just go to the YMCA and chuck baits all over the pool there.
Well, hopefully there's swimmers in the pool because then you can see how your rod handles.
That's pretty funny. I could just see him showing up with like somebody showing up with 6 rods and reels with 6 different crankbaits on, going through the check-in.
I'm going to take lane 2, please.
That's awesome.
Outstanding.
All right, another question. When is the best time of the year to use flat-sided crankbaits?
Fall. Fall's good.
Right now?
Right now. Fall's a really good side for flat sides. Spring is too. The pre-spawn is not bad, but I really like them in the fall.
Yeah. Real quick, somebody wants to know, when you use the speed clips, do you leave the O-ring on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the O-ring to O-ring connection that keeps that bait so free moving that the bait is really free. That's why I don't tie direct to the line pull. Like I know a lot of guys that do.
Yeah.
I don't, because I want my bait free. I want it wiggling and jiggling, and I want it free as a bird.
Yeah. We've talked about line size
Mm-hmm.
numerous times.
Yes.
It's just dependent upon the situation, right, Frank?
Well, that and how deep you want the bait to go. Like here, for example, if I'm fishing a square bill and I'm fishing it on rock, I can throw it on 12. If I'm fishing a square bill and I'm throwing it in heavy wood, I can fish it on 17 or 20. If I'm fishing sparse grass, I'll fish it on 17 so I could just snap it through the grass and keep on keeping on. So it all depends on the type of cover you're fishing. Now, with deep diving crankbaits, line size becomes important for depth.
Mm-hmm.
12 is going to run deeper than 17. 14 is going to run deeper than 17, but not as deep as 12. So you can control your depth that way. You know what I mean? As long as the crankbait you're throwing doesn't get affected by the heavier line size, because some of your smaller crankbaits won't run with 17 or 20.
Right.
They just won't do it.
Yeah. I remember many years ago, I think I had like 20-pound test, set up on an Abu 5500.
Oh gosh, I remember that on an old 5.5-foot pistol grip, no doubt.
Oh yeah, I chucked that thing out there and I tried to reel it back, and it was just a mess.
Yeah,
because it was 20. Yeah,
it was oversized for probably the crankbait that you were throwing.
I mean, this is how bad it was, Frank. I was using Berkeley Big Game.
You were using cable.
I was an idiot.
You're throwing it on something you'd see a dude in a circus walking on it going like that.
Yeah, what were you using there, Jeffries? Oh, I broke out the 20-pound Berkeley Big Game there. That's what I did.
Fire it up.
Idiot. Jeez. All right, do we need to ask the fans for some help here, Frank?
Yeah, I do.
All right, what you got?
I'm actually embarrassed to ask, but I'm asking.
Right. What do you got?
Okay, I have a Lowrance HDS 12 Gen 3. Was working like a charm. Then all of a sudden, I got this.
Hang on, let me blow you up.
All right. Okay, so all of a sudden, I got this, where I have this big blob of green
noise
that comes across and it ends at about 6 feet, and then I got a little bitty part of the bottom that's clean. This just started. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know. I tried turning the noise off and on high and all of those settings off and medium, low, and high, and nothing changes it. Okay. I changed the unit to read off of my side imaging and down imaging transducer, and this goes away, and I get a beautiful reading. But the transducer that shoots through the hull is not giving me a reading. It's doing this thing. The transducer that shoots through my hull is giving me, and it's solid green. That's just the color palette I'm on, but it's solid green. Okay. And I don't know if there's a setting in there that I can get rid of this in.
Okay.
Or my thought is the transducer shooting through the hull is either no good anymore or it came a little loose. I need to know.
Yeah. The consensus right now is they say the transducer might be bad.
That's what I was afraid of.
But you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to John. Is who you need to talk to at the Bass Tank.
Yeah, it's probably the transducer. That's the best case I can give.
Yeah.
It's the transducer. Although I hooked it up to my front and it did the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta try it on the water. I hooked it up last night when I got home to the front. Yeah. And it seemed like it was doing the same thing, but I don't know what the front transducer is on the Ultrex, and you have to program what transducer it's reading on the HD.
Yeah, here I'm going to throw this one up here. It says need a new transducer. Mark Daniels Jr. had a similar issue.
Okay, so that's what I thought. Just chuck that onto the camera fund, because the new transducers today are like, $300.
Yeah, it's not like it used to be. Oh, how much? 50
80,
bucks.
yeah, they were like
Yeah.
69.99. But now, and I also got to get a .1 antenna too, so that's another 350.
Hey, by the way, that drawing, that was epic. Very, very good drawing there, Frank.
Oh my God! Here, let me put this with the other ones.
Yeah. I mean, maybe somebody out there will buy a new transducer for you for that drawing. How about that?
Oh, please! I don't want people buying me stuff, man. But
Well,
yeah,
it's a bartering thing, man.
it is bartering. But yeah, so I thought it was the transducer. I wanted to avoid having to take the gas tank out of this boat because I believe the
geez.
transducer is underneath my tank.
Oh, that's not good.
That's just a 3-day process.
That's a pain in the A right there.
Yeah, it'd be better me driving down to where you live and just taking it to the bass tank. which I would rather do than take my tank out, to be honest with you. I would much rather do that.
How long of a drive is that? What is that? 12 hours?
Yeah,
14
12,
hours?
14, something like that. Somewhere between 12 and 14.
Hey, man, we can plan it out. You could do day 4 here in the studio. How about that?
Dude, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to call old John Boy at Bass Tank, and see. I would just like to get my boat straightened out. I'm really particular when it comes to my electronics and stuff.
Yeah.
And way back in the day, I know we digress, but way back in the day, I had switched from Lowrance to Humminbird, and ran birds for a long time and then went back to Lowrance. And so it took me a little while to learn,
The
relearn
subtle differences.
everything. Yeah. And the thing I love about Lowrance the most is their waypoint management is the best on the planet, bar none.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of waypoint management. I have every lake separated by lake. So I don't have 5 million waypoints in my unit. Everything is separated by lake. It's all time stamped. So I know the latest, the most recent set of waypoints. So I'm not loading something that I did in 2008. I'm loading something, that's more recent, more current. And I love the way that, you don't need special programs or anything. You can just save them right into your computer and label them, and then you can put them in your unit. The other thing about the Lowrance that I love is they have this thing called, you could save waypoints by region, and it gives you the ability to draw a box around the lake, save just that lake, and label it. So you can build a file system within your unit. So you can have all your lakes and files. So you can click a file and open it when you're on Lake A, and when you're off Lake A, you can close it and open Lake B when you go to Lake B. So you're not having all these, waypoints in there. It's just a really cool system. I really dig that about Lowrance. I liked my birds a lot too, but the waypoint management was rough. I mean, you had to use Humminbird PC, and if you had more than one lake on a Humminbird, you had to go through manually, remove the waypoints, and make a master copy, and then remove them and label the lake, and then go back to your master and remove another lake. It was just time consuming, and so I kind of got back into Lowrance because I really just like the ease of operation with that unit.
Well, with what you're doing too, waypoints and all that, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I have, it's really weird because especially when I'm offshore fishing, I don't hardly ever look up. I'm always staring at my graph. My eyes almost never come off my locator, except when I go to make a cast so I can get the right angle of my cast, and then I'm back on the locator reeling in. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm always watching boat position and where I'm at because I think that's what separates the men from the boys when you're structure fishing, is to actually know exactly where you're at, which is why I'm getting the pinpoint, because I'm kind of sick of my screen when I'm not moving. My screen's,
Yeah.
trying to find you, locate you.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, a lot of people were wondering how Matt was doing at day one of the Open. Nothing on Bass Track yet. But what's interesting, the guy that's leading it, and obviously everything's unofficial and all that, his name is Vance Montgomery. And Frank, this dude has fished Grand Lake since probably I came out of the womb.
So what you're telling me, Mark, is he really knows the lake.
He knows the lake, and he's a good dude. He is a outdoor show promoter and a pretty well-known taxidermist here in Oklahoma. And that's kind of a little background on Vance. But Vance has been fishing Grand Lake for a zillion years.
Is he like tearing it up, or is he?
He's got 12.7 already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're early, and the tractor's not up to date. Yeah.
Super early. But I did speak with Matt the past 3 days. He's got a decent game plan. He's catching a few. But this time of the year up there, with all the pressure that Grand Lake has seen, it's just a timing thing, man. And being in the right place at the right time with all the pressure that this lake has seen, there will be some dinking and dunking going on. But, there'll be a lot of other stuff that he's really good at. So we'll see what happens. Mathematically, he's still alive.
And he's got experience on that lake.
Oh, yeah. A ton. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Just do
a lot of people. Yeah. Just stay in Wolf Creek. I think there was like 120 boats in Wolf Creek. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not going down that path. We'll see, though. All right, man. Anything else on day 4?
Day 4, no. Just, khaki bandits in the paint shop. Got to check that out. Today's day 4. Listen, I appreciate the information on the locator thing. Today's day 4 was kind of fun because I got to talk about my introduction to bandit lures, and kind of gets me itching to throw them more. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
I caught a lot of fish on those things. Golly, man, a lot.
It's color.
And as anglers, why do we do that? We have a bait that we catch tons of fish on, and then all of a sudden we stop throwing them. You know what I mean? It's like the lizard, dude. Nobody throws a lizard anymore.
I know.
The amount of money that I won on a lizard is like astronomical. And I'm almost as guilty, although I still throw the lizard. But I'm almost as guilty because I don't throw it as much. You know what I mean? I got really hooked on, the Yum Spine Craw and the Money Craw. I got really hooked on those baits because they're really performing good for me. Yeah. And so I'm kind of like, lizard, spine craw. I'm going to put the spine craw. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, we're all guilty of it.
Hey, did you hear about my straw story? I'm not going to go down that path again, but did you hear about that?
I did not hear about it.
Yeah, I got these straws from a restaurant bar that we went and had dinner Sunday night, and they're super jumbo straws. And I actually talked about this on the show Monday.
Oh, yeah, to put over your wacky rigs.
Yeah. So, like, if I just happen to have them sitting here. I didn't know if you saw it or not, and I don't have a cut piece, but you take a Yum Dinger, and it fits perfectly.
Dude, those straws must be gigantic.
Oh, they are.
What do you pump fuel with them?
That's what I'm saying, man. So I had them sitting here. I was wondering if you saw that. But I cut them up in a little 1/4-inch pieces, and then you rig that thing wacky style with the ring on there, and
you put the hook right through the straw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the bait stays perpendicular.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about the O-rings. The O-rings, the bait, with the O-ring, if you have the hook on the bait and the O-ring, the bait's,
it's like sideways.
If you have the hook on the O-ring, the bait's sideways. So what I do with the O-rings is I put 2 on if I'm going to use them.
Oh, you're double dipping there.
Yeah, I'll do 2 in a cross,
Yeah.
and then put the hook in the cross so the bait stays, the way it's supposed to stay, like that.
Forget about that, man. I'll get you some straws. I'm going to go back there for lunch this weekend.
Find out where they get them, dude. Just find out the distributor.
She didn't know. I mean, she didn't know. She was just she was really nice. I asked her for a half a dozen. I got 6 of them too.
Apparently you're going through a lot of straws.
No, dude, they're hard to find. It was a cool deal. I was happy, man. I was like, I finally have a tip for somebody.
Hey, do they make that straw in clear?
I don't know. I don't even know where it comes from.
If you find those things in clear, send me some.
Yeah, but look, man, they got chartreuse.
I know, but I want clear.
Okay. When I go back, I will request clear straws, okay?
Tell them Uncle Frank wants clear.
Uncle Frank needs a new transducer and some clear straws. That's right. And a camera.
And oh, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. Sorry, man.
God, what an expensive 3 weeks.
Oh, Frank, I feel for you, man. I'm feeling for you, but
yeah.
Good show today, man, and really appreciate the feedback from the fans, all the questions, and make sure you check out Khaki is back.
Khaki is back.
It's not the dude what he's wearing working for State Farm either.
That's right. It's not Jake from State Farm.
That's right. He's wearing khakis. No.
That's fantastic.
Bandit is wearing khakis. That's what's happening. So good stuff, everybody. Keep an eye out on what Matthew does today and tomorrow. Big day. Mathematically, still got a legitimate shot, but has to have a really, really good start to the tournament today. We'll see what happens. All right, Frank?
Good luck to him.
Yeah. All right, man. Let me know if you're going to make your way down to Oklahoma, man. We'll get something set up.
Yeah, I will. Maybe when it gets a little colder out and I can't fish anymore.
I know. Last thing. All right, next week I am working on getting the Lake of the Ozarks thing set up. Me and you versus Frankie and the Grasshopper.
Yeah, the Grasshopper.
I know. We got to get that going, man.
You had to pick a lake I've never been on in my life.
You've never been to Lake of the Ozarks?
Never. But I'm not afraid.
All right, folks, that's it. That's going to wrap up this week. By the way, next week, working on the shows, Matt's going to be back. But one of the cool things, we're going to have a special guest on Tuesday who put together a very, very cool thing in the bass fishing world that tied together bass fishing and SEC college football. How about that? That over 20,000 people show up for this thing.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like Alabama or Auburn either.
Is it like the cast fish hunt contest?
We'll get the scoop from him. I saw the press release and I was like, dang, got to get this guy on the show to talk about it. Seems pretty cool. So,
all right.
That's what we're going to do. All right, Frank, man, have a much, much better week this week. We are back in Monday with Matt in studio. And everybody out there, be safe. That's it. We're out of here.